You got to put your finger
Baseball
up,
is
Bob.
dead. Oh, yeah,
Rest.
Bob. Yeah, Bob, throw it up. No. Have Bob throw it up. Just throw a finger up, Bob.
Okay.
Just like, there he is.
Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
Very special guest today.
Yes,
Hot
ma'am.
Seat Wednesday rolls on. Tim Kirchin, week 1. Bob Nightengale, week 2 to keep it rolling. The day after the Major League Baseball trade deadline has come and gone at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bob, did you get any sleep last night?
Last night I did. The last couple nights before that, no.
I can't imagine
my
that you
phone
would.
on. I usually always turn it off or put it on silent. But yeah, I was got a little crazy yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of moves being made yesterday. I think Jay described it perfectly, where it was just a great trade deadline for players that were just okay. Were you surprised at the lack of superstar names that were moved at this deadline?
I wasn't surprised. You kind of expected it, but you're kind of hoping somebody would come along. And usually there's a big surprise, and there wasn't one. I agree. A lot of supporting players, supporting cast, but no real stars. I mean, probably the biggest guy would be Jack Flaherty, and he got traded for really not much at all by the Dodgers.
Well, and Bob, that's a great sort of lead in to the question that I had, because you've been around a ton of trade deadlines. You've seen a lot of different approaches, a lot of different maneuvers made, maybe moves sort of made out of the shadows. Some teams come out of left field that were never really interested in certain parties, and now they're all in on these parties. And I think you've watched that happen from a player perspective and an organizational perspective. You mentioned Jack Flaherty as the big name that moved. I think we can all agree on that. But there were some other names in that department that were kicked around, right? Some left-handers, a guy by the name of Tarek Skubal that was kicked around. And then there was a guy by the name of Garrett Crochet who took a very interesting approach to announcing how he would be handled through this process. Have you ever seen or heard, or can you remember an instance in where a team or a player outwardly came out and sort of planted their flag and said, this is how we're going to operate right now at this time. If you want to come get me, you're going to have to sign me up for the long haul. Have you seen anything like that before? And do you think it impacted that player's lack of interest?
I think it definitely made an impact. And the only thing I can think of is back to Matt Harvey days, but he was already with the Mets. And he had said, you know what, I'm going to watch my innings. I'm not going to pitch much in September, won't be billable in October. Well, sure enough, the fans are booing, the teammates are upset, and lo and behold, he pitches and they go to the World Series. I think in this case, hey, you understand why he's doing it. He's not making much money. But I don't know if you could come out public and say that. The Dodgers, they thought that, hey, once you get him in the clubhouse, is he really going to look Clayton Kershaw in the eye and these guys and say, hey, fellas, go ahead without me. Don't forget my ring size when you get a World Series. I don't think you can do that without being a pariah in the clubhouse. But I do think it affected his market, because I think other GMs are saying, wait a minute now, do we really want a guy like this? It's going to come up again this winter when they do trade him, and people are going to remember what happened here.
And over the course of a regular trade deadline, how many rumors do you hear that just never make it across the finish line? Like, is the almost trade deadline more interesting than the actual trade deadline that the fans end up seeing?
Oh, it is, because there's so many things out there. Like the Tarek Skubal, I don't think that was ever close at all. You talk to teams like the Dodgers, they said they refused to even talk about him. So I think the Skubal thing got way carried away with Baltimore and all that. But yeah, I mean, probably the most intriguing one in this deadline was the Yankees had a deal for Jack Flaherty, and the Yankees were dealing Nestor Cortez, who's pitching for him right now, or pitching on Wednesday, and they had the deal all set up. They had the physical, using the physical as a slam dunk. They said, wait a minute now, we're not too crazy about this back. So he went back in the market, And, hey, every GM hears the whispers and everything else. And I think that's why the Dodgers got him at a cheap price when the Yankees were all set to grab him.
Well, that was going to be my other question is, have you seen a time period where it feels like there's been a lot of players who have moved for not quite the asking price that you would expect or that you would assume? It really feels like if you've had pieces that have been coveted, teams who have identified those pieces were more than willing, it feels like, to come up off of some prospects that they may not have initially thought they were going to have to, but in the face of trying to get to the postseason and make some noise in a deep run, they had to make peace with that and they had to move on from guys.
Yeah, and I think the Dodgers were with that with the Crochet. They were involved all the way there till the end, and say, you know what, we can get Flaherty for a lot cheaper. The Astros tried to get Flaherty. They thought the market was too high. Ends up they giving up more prospects, for Kikuchi from Toronto than they would have had for Flaherty, and so that one kind of backfired on them.
You mentioned Skubal as a guy that it never really got close. I kind of felt the same way where I didn't expect him or Crochet to go. Who is the guy that you most expected to be moved that stayed put?
I thought maybe a couple of the Angels guy might get moved. I thought Tyler Anderson might get moved. I thought a Finnegan from the Washington Nationals get moved. A few guys like that, but no big names. I did think Crochet was going to get moved. They've been actively shopping him. But otherwise, I don't think there's any, big names that you thought, okay, they're definitely going to be traded. What happened here? Maybe Finnegan, the closer for the Nationals, but then he gives up 5 earned runs 2 nights ago against Arizona, and I think that kind of alarmed a lot of teams. Say, wait a minute now, maybe we won't trade for him.
Interesting. Do you think, given how it used to be in the good old days where there was the waiver trade deadline and the non-waiver trade deadline, where you could still make a deal in late August, and now there's just this one trade deadline? Do you think that we should move the trade deadline up a little bit later so that way more teams are aware if they're a buyer or seller, so there's more action?
I think GMs would certainly like that, make it easier, just move it back 2 weeks. I know it's been talked about, but it's kind of fun to see teams on the bubble, what they're going to do. The Cubs were kind of caught in no man's land. I thought the Giants were a great example of that. They're dumping guys and bringing guys in. They weren't really sure which way to go. So I kind of like teams kind of guessing as far as, hey, we're going to be in there or not. And some teams, I think, more stay pat, thinking, you know what, we may get in the playoffs, but are we really going to get to the World Series?
Well, and the reason that I think, and Jay, hey, I saw you nodding your head, so jump in if you have something to say about this, please. But I think that's the interesting part of how teams are constructing their rosters and the attention that has to be paid to where you're at, taking stock of where you're at, and being serious with yourself and your organization. How close are we? When you see a team like the St. Louis Cardinals make the moves that they did, when I think you look maybe not super overwhelming in certain areas, but definitely addressing needs. Is there a bat out there? Is there a position player out there that you feel like was going to move, should have moved, didn't move, or maybe did move, and you didn't expect them to land there? Because I think Tommy Pham is a name that people did expect to move just based on the way he was playing, but wind up back in St. Louis. I don't know how many folks had that on their bingo card.
Yeah, and Tommy was not playing well for the White Sox, even the first minute. So it wasn't like they were getting besieged with offers on him. Remember now, he didn't sign until season started just because nobody wanted to pay the price. But yeah, Tommy can be outspoken, and I think he burned some bridges in St. Louis. But hey, St. Louis needed a bat, and bring him in. They didn't even start him yesterday, and he wasn't too crazy about that. But then he comes in the game in the 4th inning, and then he hits a grand slam, and now as a hero, calls it the greatest moment of his career. So, pretty cool to see things like that. But yeah, a lot of times, if a guy goes out, you better be careful what you say, because everybody seems to remember it. Hey, if Luis Robert was playing better, the White Sox could have moved him, which is surprising then that, the Orioles turn around, and take Eloy Jimenez, when it was really nothing more than a salary dump.
Yeah. Were you surprised that Brent Rooker did not garner more attention, or maybe he garnered the attention but didn't eventually end up moving? Was that a surprise to you, or are you reading into maybe what the Athletics have talked about in terms of trying to bolster payroll in the next few years in anticipation of a move? Is Brent Rooker a guy you felt like might have been moving, or is Brent Rooker a guy you felt like they're going to wrap their arms around?
Yeah, when you talk to scouts and stuff, hey, they love Rucker. You weren't crazy about the defense. I know Phillies backed off saying, well, we got a DH and Schwarber. But other teams that came in and calling, they say, you know what, we're not moving Rucker. We're just going to move the two guys we did. And they stuck to their promise. It's like, hey, we want to build around these guys. You know, we want to win here eventually. So I think it would have been, bad PR and everything else. They've already had their prospects. Let's build around a guy who's a proven major league player and kind of a fan favorite.
Jay.
Bob, you've been a baseball insider for literal decades now. Do you remember the first time that you broke a significant trade deadline trade? Like, is that experience, is that feeling, that transaction still in your head?
Yeah, I don't remember the first one. I mean, I remember being on the ground floor when Garcia Parra, I was in Minnesota at the time, when Garcia Parra, got traded from the Boston Red Sox to the Cubs. And I remember that being a shocker, like, oh my God. So I happened to have friends in the Twins clubhouse. I was just down the hall. But no, as far as the first one, I don't. I really don't.
That was a sad day, Bob. I'm a Red Sox fan. I still to this day, I remember crying when I heard the news that Nomar was going. Doug Mankiewicz had to walk across the hall to join the Red Sox. Sad day. For as far as like this particular trade deadline goes, do you have a biggest winner and a biggest loser out of this one? And it's like, is the biggest loser a team that didn't make a move at all? Or because I mean, I feel like there's some teams that did kind of stay quiet, but there were a lot of teams that were in on the action.
Yeah, I mean, loser wise, I thought the White Sox should have got a lot more for Eric Fedde. Fedde's a good pitcher, and you get him next year for dirt cheap at $7.5 million. So I was stunned they didn't get more for him just alone. It wasn't they weren't going to get much for Tommy Pham. They weren't going to get much for Kopech, but they should have got a lot for Fedde, and they didn't. And then, a team like Minnesota Twins, and they're watching what Cleveland does, what Kansas City does. They got what was a middle reliever, I think. I thought they did the least of all the contenders. I would have hoped they did more. And then winners, I love what the San Diego Padres do. I mean, you need relievers more than anything come playoff time, because relievers can pitch every day, because you got the built-in off day after game 2, after game 5, and starters only going 5 innings. So I love the fact, we love our scouts enough. We believe in our scouts and development people. We'll go get more guys to replace them. Let's don't hang on to them.
We can still talk trade deadline later on. This is more of a free-flowing conversation here, Bob, but I'm more curious right now to revisit the MLB lockout, where you became a cult hero on baseball Twitter for your updates. Do you remember like how chaotic that time was and how information was just bouncing around all over the place? Like, do you remember baseball fans rallying around you for you to, like, baseball fans wanted you to be the one that broke the story that baseball was coming back?
Yeah, it was a long day and night where you're kind of pacing back and forth and just watch outside in Jupiter, Florida, outside the Cardinals complex, and watching the owners go to one side and the union people go the other. And then one of the big sticking points was the whole playoff format, where the players did not want to have a fourth wild card team. And I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they stuck to it. And so MLB finally caved in and said, okay, we'll go with the 3 wild cards. And it looked like that was going to get done, and a lot of optimism on that side. And then they said, let's sleep on it, and we'll get this thing done in the morning. Once they slept on it, it was over. It never should have happened. But I think it was surprised how much people cared. It's like, okay, people are so disgusted. But I was surprised, like, wow, here's all these baseball fans that really do care about this team. About the season starting right away, where I thought, it might be like 94, 95, where the fans would be so fed up. It's like, okay, I'm not even going to watch baseball anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you became the people's reporter for that entire experience. I mean, I've never, like, baseball fans cannot agree on anything ever. But for one moment in time, we all came together and agreed that Bob Nightengale had to be the one to break the story that baseball was coming back and that the season would be taking place.
Yeah, well, it was a fun time, wild time. Thank God the weather in Jupiter that time of year was great, because I think we were out there until about 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And didn't even need a jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bobby, that right there, as Jay Hay said, you've covered this game for literally decades, right? And there's been some huge hits, and I'm sure as a reporter, there's been some misses at times. Now, when Jared explains that you were the cult hero, you were our unicorn bounding around the rainbow painted skies of baseball purgatory. What's going to happen? Where are we going? Are you aware that there has been times where maybe Bob Nightengale has shot his shot and unfortunately the basket was not hit. It did not sink. Are you aware that there have been some hit and misses that baseball fans have really gravitated towards as well on your behalf?
Yeah, I don't look at the mentions and stuff like that. Doesn't do me any good. It's almost like looking at the paper, story in the paper. Hey, it's too late now. I'm not going to feel better about it, but I can feel a whole lot worse seeing mistakes. Same thing here. Make a mistake, and people go crazy on predictions. Things like that. I remember Trevor Bauer, lived close by here I'm in Scottsdale. And I thought he was going to the Mets, and he had told him he was going to the Mets. Obviously something changed there. He ended up going to the Dodgers. So all the Mets fans were all upset and everything else. Yeah. And a year later, they said, "Okay, thank God you were wrong. He's not here."
Right. Yeah. Like there's definitely theories in baseball circles where I'm like, did he do that typo on purpose because he knows that tweet's gonna pop off? Like the All-Star game one, where Shohei Ohtani hit like the first home run in an All-Star game since Mike Piazza in 1996. It meant to be the first Dodger, but it's like the typo. I feel like when you throw a typo in there, it's gonna pop off. Like that's that Bob brand of baseball right there.
We're on to you, Bob. That's what we're getting at. Is we're on to you.
Yeah.
I literally don't do it on purpose. I think people thought I was doing it on purpose. So I think since then I bought some reading glasses. Like, you know what? Let me look at my screen on the phone and be a lot more careful about that. And so I don't mess up things like that. But yeah, I think people thought I was doing it on purpose for a while.
But when you realize that you've had a typo in your tweet, are you like, I gotta leave it? I mean, this is what the people want. Like, they want that tweet from me. They're gonna get it.
Well, now it's easier. You can actually correct it. So with the edit Piazza thing with the Ohtani, it's like, you're exactly right. Like, what I do here? So that sometimes when those messages pop right up, it's like, I really screwed up here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Bob, speaking of screwing up, out of the teams that we have seen make the moves, do you have a team, and maybe this is different from a winner and a loser per se, because you're probably zooming out and looking at everybody there, but in terms of the moves that were made, is there a team that you feel like did the best that they possibly could, and this is a team that you should legitimately pay attention to because of the moves? And for me, like I said, that's a little different than they filled the void, and that's great. They made some moves. But is there a team that's truly going to benefit from this that maybe we're not looking at?
Maybe Arizona. I think all these teams are talking about, we'll try to do what Arizona did last year. I think Arizona could do the same thing. And they made just the right moves, I thought, to give themselves a chance, particularly, getting A.J. Puck from Florida. And I think that's going to help them a lot. Unfortunately, they lost Christian Walker for a few weeks with the oblique strain, but then they turn around and say, no, let's grab Josh Bell. We'll throw $2.5 million our way and get it done. So I thought I liked the under the radar moves. And like I mentioned, I really like what San Diego did. Yeah. They could have just got a starter and say, you know what, we don't have Darvish right now. We don't have Musgrove. Let's go. But they're making moves to help them in the postseason. If those guys get in, I mean, who wants to face that bullpen? That bullpen's lights out.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was actually a team that we highlighted, that I had highlighted early just a few days ago in terms of the moves that they had made and what I thought was impactful for them. So that's why I just kind of wanted to catch your drift on that, because I know there's teams that you have on your radar. There's teams that made a splash, but there might be teams who didn't make as much noise, but very fittingly address some of their needs.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these guys just weren't available. I know, people jumping on Baltimore. Hey, you should have done more. Well, I mean, you couldn't have got Skubal. You're not going to trade for him if he's not available.
Right.
You could have traded, of course, from Crochet, and they had talked at some point. But Crochet's already pitched 100 more innings they did all last year. How much of a big of a help he's going to do in September and October. So there just weren't that many guys out there. And I wonder if this will be the new reality where so many teams are in the race year after year where we don't have the big guys move. It might be different a year from now if say the Blue Jays are out of it. Certainly they'll trade Bichette and Guerrero. Then that changes the trade deadline.
Now, do you have you thought about, or do you wonder, does contract construction, does that start to become something that changes because of how the deadline is now being dealt with or not dealt with, sort of tiptoed around? And as you've sort of highlighted, teams that are really interested or teams that are a part of the mix, they're having conversations, they're calling, they're answering the phone calls. Teams that aren't, they may be more resigned to just sort of packing it in, taking it over to the slow lane and cruising to the finish line. Is contract construction with maybe opt-ins, opt-outs, player options, is that something that we could see start to change just in light of the Garrett Crochet announcement and how he has started to think about his potential moves, free agency? Is that something that kicks a little dust in that conversation?
Well, it does. Excuse me. I think that's what made Crochet so attractive. He's only making $800,000. If I bounce up to about $5 million next year or so, but just the fact he's not making money really increases that value. Where a guy like a Cody Bellinger, teams are actually afraid that he won't opt out. Then you're stuck with $54 million the next 2 years. So it's a big factor. Baltimore Orioles have new ownership with David Rubenstein. It was the old ownership. There's no way they take the contract from Eloy Jimenez and things like that, or even Zach Eflin, who makes $18 million next year. Then you look at a team like the Rays. They're going to save themselves over $50 million these next 2 years with all the moves they made, where money was just a huge factor.
Bob, I'm curious about your come up, your baseball background, because I feel like there's a lot of young baseball fans right now because of all the stardom and across the league now. There's a lot to attract young fans. So there may be baseball fans that are just discovering Bob Nightengale for the first time, a veteran in the game. Why baseball, first of all? How did you get into baseball? Did you play? How long did you play for? And then, your journalistic career, where did that begin and how did it evolve?
Well, that was I loved all sports. Fall, I was a football fan, winter basketball fan, summer baseball. Excuse me. I love baseball. I loved the Sunday papers when you knew what all the stats were, and they run around and tell your friends, hey, this, Mickey Mantle is hitting .299. Can he get over 300? Things like that. So I always followed all sports and went to college at Arizona State and got a job in Kansas City covering what is now the Sacramento Kings. So they were in Kansas City for 1 year. So when people talk about, the A's moving to Sacramento, well, I remember Sacramento breaking everybody's hearts in KC too, with the Kings. And a baseball writer there named Tracy Ringlesby, and we had two papers in town, same ownership. He goes, hey, you want to cover baseball with me? I said, I'm not sure I'm prepared to do that. But he brought me under his wing, taught me the ropes, how to treat people and everything else. So I owe my whole career really to Tracy Ringlesby. He was in Wyoming now and still is at Rockies games. So did the Kansas City Royals, which was a great team to start with, small market team. But when you're hanging around guys like Hal McRae and George Brett, Frank White, Dennis Leonard, Paul Splittorff, on and on, Dennis, all those great players, you learn baseball from them. So it's a perfect team to start with. In those days, you hung out together too. You worked hard and you were done playing. When you're done writing, you go to the clubhouse, sit around with them and have some beers, go out to the bars with them at night. So it was a great, great time to be a baseball writer. Then went to the LA Times and covered the San Diego Padres. And, Tony Gwynn, those guys. I mean, you can sit with Tony Gwynn for 4 hours.
I'm wearing Tony Gwynn socks right now, Bob.
There you go.
Look at that.
Oh, man. I mean, you can sit with him for hours. Like the nicest guy in the world. He was a guy, if you worked for 60 Minutes, walked in, he would give the same respect to a high school reporter. Unbelievable. And then moved up the coast to the Angels, covered them, and then the Dodgers, and then went on to USA Today.
Why do you think that dynamic changed? Why do you think that it's not just, what did you say? It's frowned upon for writers to fraternize with the players? Like, why do you think that dynamic no longer exists where, you could write for USA Today, walk into a clubhouse and be like, hey, do you guys want to hang out? And they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, get out of here.
The trust factor is gone. I mean, I'll still do that with guys I know, but as far as the younger writers and stuff like that, you don't see it at all. I mean, you don't see guys hang out on the road either. I mean, the guys that travel, I'll go around a lot. Might see a few coaches, but you don't see guys hanging around, even the bars or restaurants. Everybody stays in a room. I remember doing a story about the clubhouse culture changing, talking to Eric Chavez. That might have been his last year. And I said, why do you think that's changed so much? Is it because there's no beer in the clubhouse? Or is it the camera phones? He says, we don't really trust each other in the clubhouse. It's a problem. He goes, you say something in the clubhouse, they're telling their wives or girlfriends or friends, before you know it's on social media. So I think social media has kind of crushed that whole dynamic. Before too, it was like, hey, when you left that clubhouse, everything was off the record. I mean, you see guys getting in fights and yelling and stuff like that. Whenever you saw, you weren't going to write about. I think that barrier's been broken where some of it happens, outside the clubhouse. It's all over the internet.
So Jason Worth, you remember him obviously from the Phillies and the Nats. He just went on Pardon My Take very recently, and he referred to the month of August as the month of hate. Like over the course of a big league season, you guys are around each other for so long, and then by August, everyone hates each other. Everyone's on each other's nerves. The weather sucks. It's hot. Maybe you're on a bad team. Do you have a August month of hate story where maybe you were covering a team and you saw an incident where it's like, yep, that kind of fits into the whole month of hate narrative?
I don't remember if it was the what month it was, but it was getting to that point, covering the Royals. They just got swept by the Boston Red Sox. In that game, George Brett had a famous quote. Funny at the time, you can't say it now, but funny it was. There was a pitch that should have been called a third strike on Boggs. It was not called. So George Brett says there'll be a woman elected president before Wade Boggs is ever called out on a third strike at Fenway Park. And so they're all upset. Go on the team plane. I'm playing with the team, and kind of slow going off. And the pilot says, "Hey, everybody's got to be in their seats before we take off here." George Brett looks back, and there's Willie Wilson kind of messing around in the back. He says, "Willie, sit down, will you?" Throw a few words in there. "Willie, come and make me." Sure enough, flying the team plane. Plane's about an hour and a half taking off. And then that stuck. It never went away the rest of the year. But just an incident like that. And I do want to say it might have been around August. It gets on people's nerves. They can't wait for the season to end.
They're called the dog days for a reason. They are called the dog days for a reason. When you talk about the rosters that you've been around, you talk about, and you start to light up when you even say the name Tony Gwynn. What was your aha moment in the big leagues? Like what was the moment? Was it a conversation? Was it finding yourself at the ballpark in the office with the manager where you realize, holy shit, I am covering Major League Baseball and these are stars. Like, this is my life right now.
It might have been in Kansas City when, so the Royals draft Bo Jackson. We thought it was kind of a publicity stunt. Okay, Bo's going to football. He's not going to play baseball. So he's in Memphis, for a short time. Before you know it, he comes up. And we hung out all the time together. And he's telling the stories why, he wasn't going to football, growing up in Bessemer, Alabama, on and on. And so we hung out together. It was like no big deal. But then when I started seeing people's reaction, hey, this is Bo Jackson. And then when we went to the Raiders, we're still hanging out. because he didn't trust people. And I think it was then, just seeing everybody's reaction to Bo Jackson, when I was almost like taking it for granted. And that was kind of a wake-up call, like, wait a minute now, you're covering a future Hall of Famer and George Brett, Hal McRae, probably still the best clubhouse leader I've ever seen. And then going on, to see Tony Gwynn, treating a guy that's mopping the floors, as well as the president of the team. So that was cool. I think that kind of woke me up. I think Bo kind of woke me up, like, oh, this is special. Watching him shoot bows and arrows in the clubhouse and betting guys $20 he can jump over a table. I mean, he could have been an All-American gymnast, swimmer, whatever he wanted to do.
Freak.
Yeah. Not to pivot away from that, but the dynamic between executives in Major League Baseball today, how would you describe it? Like, are there certain teams that you feel are far more likely to make a trade with each other because executive A has a great relationship with executive B? Are they catty? Is there competition amongst them where every executive feels like they have to win the deal? Like, what is the dynamic between certain major league clubs?
No, I think the relationships are a big part. I mean, come trade deadline in the offseason, if two guys are good friends and make deals before, they're going to keep making deals. Where you see some guys just don't trust the other GM and say, you know what, I don't like this guy. I'm not going to make a deal with him. So you see that all the time. I think Brian Cashman is probably the most popular GM among his peers. I think Perry Manassian as well with the Angels. Guys like that, you can kind of tell the guys who hang together, at the GM meetings and winter meetings, because they'll be the last guys, hanging out at the bar. And, guys like Mike Rizzo's become famous. It used to be Kevin Towers. So the torch is kind of passed now to Mike Rizzo.
Interesting. Yeah. The winter meetings are always very interesting times. You never know who you're going to stumble into in the lobby at whatever hotel that they're being held at. You never know. Me and Dallas famously have a story about the 2020 meetings in San Diego, where you just don't know who you're going to be running into. They don't know who we are. We got into an elevator with some Angels employees. We don't know if they were executives, but we were going up the elevator and they were like, man, we're not even fucking close on Garrett Cole. They were just like flabbergasted. They're like, yeah, we didn't even come close. It was right after the news broke that he had signed with the Yankees, and the Angels were the heavy favorite to end up signing Cole. And they were like, we weren't even fucking close on that one. Do you have a favorite winter meetings story?
The best were going back to Kevin Towers. So he would let me hang out suite all night long, where I'd fall asleep in there. So he'd have all kinds of GMs and managers in there. There was a night where guys were drinking too much, and I don't know what John Daniels said, but Kirk Gibson says, if you say that again, I'm going to headbutt you. Sure enough, he headbutted him. And there's John Daniels, on the floor, blood pouring out. That was Kirk Gibson. There was a night where Lou Piniella was in there, and they made a trade in cocktail napkins, and they were begging Piniella, now go wake up Pat Gillick right now. It's 2:30 in the morning. Everybody's been drinking. And wake him up right now and get this deal done. He didn't do it, and the deal fell apart. They blamed Lou for not waking up Pat Gillick at 3 in the morning.
I mean, it really does make you wonder, like, how many Major League Baseball trades are influenced by alcohol. I'm sure the answer has to be
significant amount. Significant amount.
In the history of the game, it has to be quite a bit.
Yeah, not as much as before. I mean, there's some famous stories before where GMs would make a trade, and then the next morning a guy would say, hey, I was drunk. I'm not making that trade. Yeah. So those days were happening a lot more than now.
I mean, just like talking that scene out loud, like when we say it slowly and put it together, you have John Daniels on the floor bleeding because he was headbutted by Kirk Gibson. And then you have some other GM yelling at Lou Piniella at 2:30 in the morning to go wake up his GM so we can get this damn deal. Like, that's what's going on in one collective suite, just one during the meetings. That is just, it's a wild look inside. And I think for the most part, fans, they view this as such a buttoned up and official sort of transactional relationship and occurrence, when at times it is as far from that as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like that now. I don't think anybody keeps their suite open like Towers did, where he's passing his room key and guys are, you wake up, 6 a.m. There was a time where it was in New Orleans. It was a great winter meeting. So Kevin Towers and Bruce Bochy went out and they were at the Harris Casino right downtown there. They won some good money and came back at 7 a.m. It was a Rule 5 draft, and Kevin Towers had forgot about it. His whole staff's in the room, all buttoned up, ready for the Rule 5 draft. And Towers threw all his chips up in the air and said, "Guys, just draft whoever the hell you want. I'm going to bed." Those were the fun days. Those were the fun days.
Yes, it's beautiful. That is beautiful. And I know there's going to be somebody who hears it is like, "Oh my God, we could have been so much better if they only would have paid." Easy. The World Series is not going to be won and lost in the first round of the Rule 5 draft. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
Exactly.
What's your favorite winter meetings destination? I feel like I saw you walking around with a cowboy hat on when the winter meetings were in Vegas. Am I correct on that?
No, I mean, I always stay late. I like to be the last guy in the bar to get more information. But I know it wasn't me with the cowboy hat.
Okay. I could have sworn it was you, Bob. I don't know. You never were rocking a cowboy hat? I might have to go back into the archives on that one.
Yeah, I don't think I ever worn one. Maybe as a little kid, but no, it wasn't me.
Do you have a favorite winter meetings location?
It might have been New Orleans. New Orleans was a fun one. I mean, you're right there in the first quarter. I thought it was a great time. They had one in Boston. I thought that was a fun time, right? The Copley Marriott there. And, San Diego was always good ones. So, but yeah, those jump out. They used to be back in the day before I covered. They used to be in Hawaii every 5 years. But you know what? They could be in Yuma, Arizona. You hardly ever leave the lobby anyway. So like the cities are way overrated because you never leave the property.
Yeah, I don't think I went outside once when we were in Vegas. I think we stayed in the hotel the entire time. I don't think I saw sunlight for 5 days.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, I remember in Dallas I didn't go outside the entire time. It was at the A-Rod when he went to the Rangers and had no idea. It was freezing cold out there, but you're inside. It's like the worst ones are in Nashville at the Opryland, where every single day you're lost. Particularly when you have a few drinks at night. Remember, going to the front desk. Yeah, I need help finding my room again. That place is so big you can't see anybody.
Right. I've been there.
Hey, you had the opportunity to follow a guy like Bo Jackson, and you just talked about how you almost maybe even took him for granted at times. Is there a player today in today's game that has sort of caught your attention or captured your attention the way that Bo Jackson may have after you realize that, hey, Bob, this is Bo fucking Jackson. This guy's pretty good at everything. Is there a dude like that in our game that maybe caught your attention, caught your eye, or has you thinking like, you know what? This cat is just a little different, man.
The new guy is Paul Skeens, and I relate because I used to live in the Air Force Academy. My dad was career Air Force, so I know how special that place was. And for him to say, hey, the two places I want to go is either Naval Academy or Air Force Academy. They were recruiting him. He was recruiting them, spending 2 years there, and then crying when he said, the coach said, hey, you better transfer because you're going to have to serve 5 years of military service, and you have to stay 4 years if you don't. In the fact that he still talks about the Air Force Academy like he graduated from there, and he still says, you know what, when I'm done playing, I want to go back in the Air Force. So he resonates with me, particularly, having a dad being military and being in the Air Force Academy. So I've been fascinated by him, just the way how poised he is and everything else.
I mean, he showed up and instantaneously became the best guy on the team, maybe the best arm in the division. I mean, best arm in baseball. And we were talking about it the other day. Is there a guy in the game right now, if you had to win one game, you got to win one game. Is there a starter outside of Paul Skeens that you would rather have? And I don't know that it's a right or wrong answer. I think it just speaks to how quickly Paul Skeens has showed up and entered a realm of dominance that you just frankly didn't expect.
No, it was like there's no growing pain, whatever. And they, it's like I think last week he was actually in Phoenix, and it was right after the no-hitter by Dylan Cease. And the question to him was, hey, you ever tried to talk to your manager, staying in? You could have 2 no-hitters by now. He goes, hey, I need a few more starts, a few more years to even bring up the conversation. But just so polite, too, that he knows where his thing is. He's not coming in and say, hey, look at me. Hey, I'm the star now. It's like, hey, I'm just a rookie. I barely got here. I was lucky to even be in the All-Star game, let alone start it. So you like that humility he has.
Love that. Bob, you got to get to the yard, right?
Yeah, they played the Diamondbacks and Nationals, so I'm going to head over there. They had an ugly one last night, 14-0? The Diamondbacks over Washington. So there's some good guys over there, and I haven't seen Davey Martinez in a while.
Well, there you go. Bob Nightengale, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. This was very fun. For a first-time guest, I mean, you haven't been on. We've been in the business for 7 to 8 years now. We haven't had Bob Nightengale on, so this was a first, and it was very much a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure being on. I had a fun time with you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
you.
Bob. Appreciate you, big dog.
All right, see you guys. See you, Joe.
See you, bud.
Bob Nightengale.
Wow.
It was definitely him with the cowboy hat, by the way. You saw it, Dennis, did you not?
I mean,
I had the vision, but he nailed every bit of the winter meetings. He nailed every bit of it. And especially for a guy like me, I'm there, I'm waking up. They have alcohol there. We're going to have some of that. And we're probably going to have some of that.
We're going to have some of that.
And I absolutely, Jared, I can see him walking. And I almost want to say, I feel like there was a slight untuck of the shirt. The image that I have, is yes. I think
I'm
it was
telling
Bob
you right
Nightengale.
now, I saw Bob Nightengale in a cowboy hat at the winter meetings in Las Vegas. I know it. I know it was him.
let's be clear. The stories that he told strongly suggest that there is routinely some unaccounted for time in Bob Nightingale's winter meetings escapades. So I think the possibility of having a cowboy hat on during one of those late night romps is totally feasible for sure. Yeah. That was, by the way, just to go back to the actual interview. I mean, some amazing story kernels in there.
Are you fucking serious?
I mean,
dude, that's incredible. I mean, he's talking like I said, I'm going to that image of Kirk Gibson headbutting John Daniels bleeding on the floor, someone yelling at Lou Piniella to get this fucking trade done at 2:38. Like when you just think about chaos in one setting, to have all of that, those names, what? That's what? And that's in room fucking 234, right? There's a ton of other rooms, another wing of shit like that going on.
Dude, Bob Nightengale has to look at the game right now and the way he interacts with it and be like, yo, this shit is so lame. It's it used to be so cool. And, I mean, he's, closer to the end of his ride than the beginning. I mean, he's been in the, I looked at it. He's been covering professional sports in some capacity for literally 40 years. Didn't get to USA Today till 98 or whatever, but as he said, that Sacramento or the other stuff dates back to the 80s. So he's been in the game for a very long time. I just can't even imagine being in year 41 or 42 of this and being wow.
And seeing this.
I'm just thinking about what I was doing 15 years ago. And it's just man, this is bananas.
Jay, think about him. And you're probably, Jared, I don't know if you ever looked at the newspaper when it came to baseball. Did you?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So you can remember, that was something that I did, looking at the box scores in high school, because that's all you had, right? Yep. That's all you had. I didn't have the fucking internet until later. So when you see a guy like Bob Nightengale talking about, or you hear a guy like Bob Nightengale talking about, spending ungodly hours with a general manager in his room, to the extent where the GM has probably gone down to the front desk and has just gotten 5 extra copies of his key and is like, Bobby, here you go. I'll see you at night. Yeah, you know the deal. 11 o'clock, room will open. Come on down. That's the kind of shit he was doing. That's how he was getting the stories. That's the boots on the ground effort, where it was quite literally about your ability to form, maintain relationships and levels of trust based on what you were saying in the public, based on what you weren't saying in the public, and everybody knew. Like, that's what that day was all about. You know, you talk about it, or you hear about it in movies and old accounts, where in the 20s, 30s, 40s, these writers were riding the trains with the players, sleeping in the same train cars as the players, eating dinner with the players, right? Quite literally forming the narrative, forming the legacy of these players, which is why we end up having the conversations that we do about the Hall of Fame and why some guys are in and why some aren't. And it's madness, but it's a beautiful madness about this game. And I'm really, really thankful that Bob jumped on with us and shared that, because I think insight like that is something that you just never get these days. You're never going to get a forum in which you're going to have somebody freely speak about stuff like that, unless they have the ink under their fingernails that a guy like Bob Nightengale has. And I'm really appreciative of him sharing that kind of stuff with us.
Yeah. Because if not, like, you have to understand also, if you're a listener, that there are baseball writers out there that just don't have a platform like this. You know, Bob's just out there writing stories. Unless he's prompted to speak about these things, then those stories just stay locked up in the safe. They're at the bottom of the ocean. It's they got to be unlocked. It's not like Bob is just gonna put out. And Jeff, I mean, I've given credit to him a lot. Jeff Pearlman has been someone that was a writer for a long time, wrote a lot of cool stories, but a lot of them were lost to time and, you know, different jobs and the archives. And he just hops on TikTok and he just talks about all these old stories that he wrote that maybe no one now even knew existed. Like, I scrolled through his TikTok and he's like talking about a story that he wrote in 1998. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I never even knew that this happened. Like, he just told one the other day about, it was like 3 baseball prospects were on a boat and it like capsized and one of them drowned, and then one of the surviving guys like named his son after the guy. I'm like, I didn't even know anything about this. Like, I had no idea.
It's no, I was going to say, I think I remember that story.
Yeah.
But to your point, that's stuff that's written down. And it's almost like the social media aspect of this has given guys an opportunity to reignite or sort of retell those stories, because today's attention span is thirsting for the words, is thirsting for the sound, right? Very rarely do you find people who are willing to commit and dedicate themselves. That's why I wear out Jay and call him a nerd, because he does that thing that a lot of people used to do that fewer people do today, and that's read for enjoyment. You can actually find enjoyment in words and not listen. Like, right.
Finished a book this morning.
There you go. You create a narrative. You have the writer take you on this role. You add the tones, you add the scents and the smells. And then the next thing you know, you're enjoying this thing like you never thought you would. That's what a guy like a Pearlman or a Bob Nightengale have to offer, is they painted this picture for you once. And now with the, with the ability of hindsight and with today's context, they can really sort of repaint, reimagine, remaster those stories. And I think they really have some flavor to them now. So it's just really cool that they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, two final things, at least for me, on the Nightengale stuff, because I know we got a lot of other stuff to talk about. The Twitter mistake stuff. I am now viewing that in a completely different light than I did before. Like, that was much more grandfatherly than I anticipated that it was. He was like, I had to get new glasses to make sure that I didn't make those mistakes. And
he don't care.
Like that's just, that is way more, that's even more gold than it was before, having gotten that response from him. And secondly, while they are contemporaries, and I know they know each other because I know Tim's told me that they do, what an incredible contrast in terms of the type of stories that are going to be provided between Tim Kurkjian and Bob Nightengale, right? Like, roughly the same age, been in the game for about the same time. And I'm going to go ahead and say that Tim Kurkjian was not in Kevin Towers' hotel room, right? Whoa. And was probably gathering his stories and making his personal connections in a different way than Bob Nightengale did. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them. And that's why it's just so fitting that we have them back to back.
No, Jay, it's because Timmy is at the fucking top of the key at 24-hour fitness.
Yeah, he's playing
out plays for fucking Cal Ripken. Yo, you need to cut to the fucking bag, Cal. Cut to the fucking hoop. What are you doing? And then you got Nightengale getting absolutely blasted in the fucking suite with Kevin Towers.
Bob's going to bed at 6 a.m. Tim's getting up at 6 a.m. Yep,
exactly.
To hit the b-ball courts. Yeah, good stuff.
What's this report I'm reading? Latest report proves just how bad Tigers executive Scott Harris botched the Jack Flaherty trade. Detroit Tigers president of baseball operations Scott Harris made the same mistake twice, which is hard to believe. What did he do?
Wait, who's saying this?
Evan Petzold of the Detroit Free Press reported that Harris could have received the same offer the Blue Jays got for Kikuchi, but was unreasonable at the time when talking to the Astros, so they pivoted. Petzold also reported that Harris refused to lower his asking price for Flaherty. Holy shit. That was thunder.
Thunder?
Shook the fucking house. Yeah. It's either thunder or a fucking nuclear warhead. Jesus Christ.
Is it raining there?
Jeez.
I just saw that it was about to rain, but that thunder was loud.
I didn't
so
think
if
we
I
were
lose
getting
power,
that kind of weather. Wow.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Steve. Fucking asshole. I mean, this guy, we get the shittiest weatherman in the game on Section 10. He just blows it week after week.
Is that all he does for Section 10 too?
That's it.
It's just, that's crazy.
Yeah. That's all he does.
And he got invited to Dallas just as the weather guy?
That's it. Yep. And I
like Steve. I had a great time with him. That's
great
crazy.
guy.
That's all he's doing.
Great guy.
Now.
Terrible
is this
weatherman.
Stevie P weather guarantee gone bad again?
Yes, it seems that way. I didn't hear a word. I didn't hear a word about chaotic thunderstorms on Wednesday, but apparently that my house is in danger now. Thanks a lot, Steve.
So what happened? The Tigers GM fucked it up, got a little too greedy, and then had to settle for what he got?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It got to the point where it was like, we got to get something for him because he's a rental. He signed a 1-year deal.
Sure.
The asking price was ridiculous, and he came down and got fleeced.
I mean,
and maybe.
Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, go ahead. I was going to say something about the dates and shit.
I just think that without us having the inside information that this Detroit Free Press writer is sharing, like, it does intuitively make sense though, because the overwhelming reaction from the Yusei Kikuchi trade was, holy shit, they paid what to get him? Like, I think the consensus among all of the analysis that I read and listened to and intuitively knew on my own was that the package paid for Kikuchi yesterday may have been the richest, the prospect package, or 2 days ago, may have been the richest prospect package that anybody paid for any pitcher that moved at the deadline, which doesn't really make sense for a guy with a 4.75 ERA. So, I mean, obviously the Astros see something in Kikuchi and there's lots of things to see in him, but that does kind of line up with the relative prices paid, just with Flaherty having a significantly better season than Kikuchi.
I think even after talking to Bob and just, having and it's not that we didn't have an understanding of how those conversations and negotiations went, but does it feel like there is just way more ineptitude surrounding the deadline and moves like this than teams would really like? You know what I'm saying? Like, does it just feel like teams, the reason maybe you don't have teams land on guys is for simple stuff like that. Like, nope, not right now. I'm not reading the room. I'm not seeing the board clearly right now. And all it takes is like an hour. Like, maybe go grab a coffee and come back and stare at the board again, and you look at things just a little differently. But it feels like there's a lot of ineptitude that has led to, yep, just weren't in on him, just didn't land him. And then there's justifications after the fact, but you realize when stories like this pop out that it's a matter of not being sure. It's a matter of not being confident or comfortable in your assessment of your own resources and then maybe the resources that are being offered to you. Like, how do you get there? That's what's curious to me, is how one team can look at an offer and say, nope, we're not there yet, and have another team in a very different position go, Yeah, we're there. We're willing to part ways with that. That's yes, absolutely. Done deal.
Well, more on that in just a second, but the MLB season is in full swing and Underdog Fantasy wants to make it a lot more interesting. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em games is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats, strikeouts, total bases, home runs, and so much more. Make entries of all baseball or mix and match across your other favorite sports. You can win up to 100 times your money, and it's a ton of fun. Speaking of a ton of fun, we have a new coworker. His name is Bill Belichick.
Yeah, how about that?
How about
it? The hoodie.
How about it?
Welcome.
How about it? Welcome, Bill.
Unofficially, I think he saw us ink up, and that kind of pushed him over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah.
He had plenty of options.
Oh, they're going to Underdog?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, he was kind of like, listen, I want to go where all the best content is. Where is that? They were like, oh, Underdog? You're talking about Underdog? He's like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, he said best content and best promos, I believe.
And best promos as well.
Yeah.
Is the hoodie trying to weasel his way into the Dinger Derby, 2025 Dinger Derby?
He did say something along those lines. I don't know if he definitively said yes or no, but he expressed interest. Yes.
Yeah, we know, he's not a guy who gets too high, too low in his excitement level.
Where'd you have his higher or lower for home run totals in the first round?
I mean, look, all I got to say is I watched one Jake Yazzie show up and silence the haters.
Double digits.
Absolutely put the fucking critics in the corner. So
put it this way. Only 3 people in the Dinger Derby reached double digits in a single round. One actively plays college baseball. One played Major League Baseball. The other was Jake Yazzie.
That's right. That's right.
Always up. Never down.
Given that shirtless photo of Belichick leaving that lady's place that was making its rounds, a year ago or whatever, he looks to me like he's got kind of like that old person Ugla body, like a Dan Ugla sort of thing going on, kind of like a box. Or maybe like an old white Ronnie Belliard sort of look going to him.
He's built like a family size box of fucking Frosted Flakes.
Jeez. Yeah. He's built like a like a mini fridge.
But an elongated mini fridge.
I don't know. How tall is Bill Belichick?
I'm gonna say he is
5'11".
He's probably taller than I think he is, just because
he's 5'11". Nailed it.
He's getting so wide. Yeah. All right. So I tower over him. That's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Cool.
But that boy thick, and that plays in the Dinger Derby.
Hell yeah. He's more than welcome for sure.
Make sure you sign up with the promo code Jared. That's JARED to get up to $250 in bonus cash and a special pick on Underdog. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Jared. Okay. I don't think it's necessary to go over every single fucking trade that happened. I think that would be a little overkill. What was that, Jay?
Just kidding. I just said, are you fucking kidding me? I was just kidding.
I heard you. I was like, I don't know if that if like
no, that was a joke.
Internet went out. If your internet went out.
Oh, no. I was lamenting that we're not going to go over every single trade.
That's where Jay makes the stand. We're not up. Fuck you. Out of here. Where do we start?
I feel like we did start talking about Jack Flaherty. The Detroit Tigers botching it. The Dodgers ending up with Flaherty. Mm-hmm. The Yankees having a deal in place, but backing out because of the medicals. I guess they didn't love what they saw there with the back.
The back, yep.
But the Dodgers walk away with Kevin Kiermaier, Jack Flaherty, Tommy Edman, Michael Kopech, and Ahmed Rosario.
Yeah, it's insane to think that a team that spent $1 billion in the offseason has to go out and get more players on the surface. It's funny to say, but we all know that this is how baseball works. Regardless of what your team looks like at the beginning, there's going to be a need to supplement and plug some holes. That's just how this thing goes. But the idea that the Dodgers are plugging their holes with who they're plugging their holes with, that's just not feasible for a lot of other teams. And that's why I said what I said about Tommy Edman. If that dude were to go to the Dodgers like that helps just because of his versatility. Well, they've got a few guys that can do that now. And along with Kopech sort of helping and aiding what they need to get done on the mound. The Dodgers, whether you like it or not, I think have to be one of the leaders in the clubhouse when it comes to success at the deadline.
Yeah.
I think is it a slam dunk that they are the winners of the deadline?
I was a fan of what the Cardinals did, and that's why when I asked Bob that question, I kind of smiled just because of them meeting their needs. But I think what the Dodgers have done sort of surpasses what the Cardinals have done, just because there's the sheer volume and the sheer depth that they're adding to their club at the most pivotal time of the season. It's not just about plugging holes like the Cardinals did. They're plugging holes and then reinforcing shit as well.
All right. I totally winners for me. I just love that they're never content. I love that they will, that they have the aggressiveness and the pockets and the wherewithal to shop at the top of the market, so to speak, in the Jack Flaherty stuff, while also having the attention to detail to go out and address several other needs as well. Like, yeah, Tommy Edman hasn't played this year and is relatively unsexy, but I look at him as like a juiced up version, like the best version that they have of that kind of Swiss Army knife, multi-dimensional sort of super utility guy.
Boy, give it to me.
Like Tommy, the difference between the guys that I've mocked for Passan's super utility tweets and Tommy Edman is that Tommy Edman has a very recent track record of being a very productive all-around player. Like it's not hypothetical for him. Across 21 to 23, he averaged 12 homers and 30 stolen bases a season and 3 to 4 B-WAR per year. He's a very good player that will be put to very good use on this team. And the Flaherty stuff, like top 15 in opponent batting average, top 10 in ERA, top 5 in strikeout rate, top 2 in K minus walk percentage. And the prospect price paid does nothing meaningful to the Dodgers farm system or ability to populate their roster in seasons to come. I just don't yes. Okay. So he's got some health risk built in, and Edman is obviously a guy who hasn't played because of injury yet. I just think they did a tremendous job, particularly given the quantity of issues they had to address.
And think about what their rotation looks like now heading into the postseason. If you didn't have Jack Flaherty, you're now answering some questions with Glasnow, Gavin Stone, and then Kershaw on the mend. Kershaw coming back. And as excited as you can be about Clayton Kershaw and what you think is going to come with it, we don't know what that looks like until he takes the mound and until he is throwing meaningful innings, right? And I think we all have an understanding of what we've seen from Clayton Kershaw in the postseason and what sort of coin flip at times that can be. So what do you do if you're the Dodgers? What do you got, Jay?
No, I'm just going to say, they doubled the number of ambulatory pitchers that they have going right now that you would want starting in a postseason series. Because what you really are saying, we don't want Clayton Kershaw starting in a postseason series unless it's deep into the series and it's kind of an emergency short start. Like Glasnow, Flaherty, we've got 2 of them. Hopefully more come back, right? Like that's really what we're talking about here.
And that is because if Walker Buehler is able to come back and is helping, then you have to love your situation, right? You have to love what you're getting now. Now, Yamamoto, do we have anything on him? Is there any hope that he's able to come back?
The latest I saw was that you're looking at an early September return, and then that obviously has its complications as it relates to ramping up and effectiveness before the postseason.
So if you don't get Buehler back and you don't get Yamamoto back, are you okay with what you have right now? And I think based on what the market was offering and where the Dodgers are at, they have to be happy with where they're at, right? They have to be happy. They have to be okay because, frankly, the deadline's come and gone and you can't do anything else. But they went and got the best possible thing available to them to capitalize on. And they made the move, man. They made the move. To Jay Hayes' point, even with all the riches, for them to still have a pulse and realize we don't have everything we need, you have to tip your cap.
This is nothing new, though, right? I mean, the 21 deadline where it was like, shit, we just won the World Series and we're going to go out and flip a prospect package for Max Scherzer and fucking Trey Turner. I mean, they don't stop. Like it is super, super impressive that, but for everything that we're kind of complimenting them, it's like a lot of it is necessary.
Yes.
You know, if they win a World Series once during the COVID year, it's not like they're racking up championships. Like they're like, hey, listen, we got that one in 2020. You can say whatever you want about the 2020 World Series, but we want another one. We want multiple. We want to be kind of like going against what the Red Sox do. They will fucking win a World Series. They will finish in last place the next 3 years. They'll pop back up again and win a World Series. They'll go back and suck for another 5 years. Then they'll pop back up a half decade later and win a World Series. The Dodgers are like, hey, we want to win 100 games every year. And then if we win 100 games, I feel like that means that we're good enough to win the World Series that year. We kind of just have to roll the dice in October and see what happens. But it's not luck for them. They're going for it every year by adding a fuck ton of talent at the deadline, in the offseason, everywhere in between.
And if you ask me, and I don't know how much of a direct help this has been already, but for me, there's just no way to not look at acquiring Shohei Ohtani and then the business moves that have followed with the acquisition of Shohei Ohtani and think that the Dodgers have already sort of gotten a steal at $700 million for Shohei Ohtani based on what he has brought in, but it's also allowed them, I think, to project towards the future and do their due diligence and almost put together 20 years worth of what their roster could look like in the future based on the financials. So it's a combination of them having a really good idea of who they are, really good idea of who they want to be and who they want to maintain and what it takes to get there. And I think fiscally they have put themselves in the position to continue to repeat. They're just playing this game in a different realm than a lot of other teams are.
Yeah, their projected 40-man year-end payroll is at $315 million.
It's a lot of cheese.
Like they already have over $200 million committed to their 2027 roster.
Yeah. And I'd be really curious to know how much more money they're going to be able to rake in just based on business deals done with Japanese entities. Like how many multiple fucking airlines that they have business deals with. Just stuff like that, dude, is stuff that other teams cannot even factor into their portfolio.
It's crazy. Crazy. Yeah, their spreadsheet is fucking outrageous.
It's insane. It's insane, dude. Insane. Like you don't have $200 million committed to 2027 without an idea of what you're doing after that either. That's right. What I'm getting.
Well, it's still $168 million for 2028.
I mean, it's insane in one sense, and then it's not in another because, Jared, you've got it pulled up. Tell me.
Like move it, like as far as 2025 goes, yeah, I'm not complaining about much. Glasnow's contract bumping up to $32 million for the next 3 years beyond this year. If he doesn't stay healthy, maybe you could look at that and be like, all right, it's
a risk. Steep. It's a risk. But that's a risk. That's what I mean. Like that's a risk. That's a built-in risk that I believe the Dodgers have prepared for.
Yeah, but Mookie at 30 and change over the next 4 years, you're good with that. Freddie Freeman at 27 over the next 3 years beyond this year, you're good with that. Glasnow, it's like, all right, 32 and a half over the next 3 years, fine. Will Smith at 16 over the next 3 years, you're good with that. Yamamoto 18, 20, 34. Like presumably you're going to be good with that. There's nothing here where you're like, man, can't wait till that comes off the books.
That's what I'm saying. So, it's a lot of money. It's simultaneously like a lot of guys that you want on those contracts. If you're a big market team like that, if they're not saddled with a lot of garbage, kind of, bloating those books. I don't know. It's just, it is very impressive, as we've all said. And it would be fun to be a fan of a team like that.
Definitely. Yes and no. It's a gift and a curse. Because I feel like Dodger fans, if they're being honest with themselves, I feel like Dodger fans are like, yeah, it's great to have all these superstars. And I've battled with this too. The whole Red Sox versus Dodgers thing. Like, would you rather be the team that wins a World Series once every 5 years, but the years in between you just fucking suck and it's just unwatchable baseball? Or would you rather be the Dodgers, where you win 100 games every single year, but then you go to the playoffs and fucking shit down your ass?
Yeah, but what? Like, okay, so like, but I don't think the Dodgers thing is like predictive. Like, I don't think the Red Sox model is necessarily predictive moving forward either. Like the Red Sox, their plan wasn't to be terrible and then pop up and win a World Series. It sort of happened. Like the Dodgers, like that they've only won one World Series over this decade run is more about bad luck than it is about anything to do with the way the Dodgers have built their clubs or anything like that. So like moving forward, I'd definitely rather be in the Dodgers situation than just about any other team, not only because they have awesome superstars and the most fun player in the game to watch, but they're going to win another one. You would think during this era. And by the way, when is this era going to end? Like, that's the other thing. Like, most of these other teams we're talking about have timelines, right? Like, they build up and it's like you've got a 4 or 5 year run or a 2 year run or whatever it might be, given your payroll, to like get a lot of wins in and to win your championship. And then it closes down, right? And then we'll see a next rebuild or whatever. What sign is there that this Dodgers thing is anywhere near slowing down?
There isn't.
Well,
It'll just transition to other people.
Right. I wonder though if there's something to having a sustained level of success where that almost numbs you to the dog days, because you're like, well, we're going to be in the postseason anyway. So what? It's a 2-week skid, whatever. And then you get into the postseason. It's the DS, it's the CS, and then you fall short. Then the next year it's the DS and you fall short. Next year it's the CS and you fall. Like, is there something that says you wouldn't really appreciate the championship because you are knocking on the door every year? And then when you do win one, you're like, oh, great, finally we're here, but we'll be in the same spot next year, as opposed to, fuck, we haven't been here in 10 years. We haven't been here in 4 or 5 years. We won the World Series, and now we can't sniff October for the next 3 or 4. Like, is there something that gets a fan, or it just tastes a little better in that regard?
Sure. I mean, if it ends up paying off, it may taste better. But, in the interim, you risk alienating X percentage of your fan base by being fucking garbage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. By not doing anything to be competitive in those quote unquote.
Yeah.
That's what happened here.
Yeah. You don't just Jared knows it better than anybody else. Jake, like, you don't just transfer the same percentage of your fan base magically once you're good again. Like, there is a deterioration that happens when a organization and now this is not the case with the Red Sox, but like when an organization goes 10 or 15 years or a generation of fandom without being good. That's absolutely happened to the Baltimore Orioles, to name one. Like, they were not replicating what they did in the 90s once that team was relevant again during the Adam Jones, Manny Machado, Chris Davis sort of era. It's just like, I know we're like way off on a Dodgers tangent now, but I would just like, yes, it is numbing to be great all the time, I guess. I don't think they have to worry about that yet, though, because as Jared started this off with, they've only got the one championship. So I don't think it can be too numb yet.
Well, moving to a team that has more than one championship and has acquired a player that I think initially a lot of folks were like, ooh, what's this going to do to the clubhouse chemistry? They might have another guy in there that has ruffled some feathers already. But the dude hasn't stopped hitting since he put on the pinstripes. And maybe they haven't been pinstripes, Jared. It's been road grays. But Jazz Chisholm. Jazz Chisholm, the first Yankee with 4 homers in his first 3 games with the team. So he showed up and sort of did what we were talking about. What I said I wanted to see was maybe him just plug into this lineup, be able to do what he does, and people not really worry about him. And I think that's kind of happened up to this point, still very early. But is this a move that we think can get the Yankees back on track? Is this a move that helps them?
It has. I mean,
over the long haul. That's why I said, like, just the first few games, his impact has clearly been felt. They
immediately have a different vibe than what they had just a week ago. It was Aaron Boone being, it's right there in front of us. And Yankee fans are like, shut the fuck up. Like, how many times have we heard that? And then Jazz Chisholm comes over and makes an impact in that final game against the Red Sox on the base paths. And then he goes and hits 2 home runs, albeit one of them, Christopher Morel, just hit another home run just now. albeit off a position player. But the fact that he just went up there and was like, yeah, I'm just going to fuck around and use Aaron Judge's bat. And then he hits a home run. And then he hit another one last night. So like he's off of fucking Matt Strahm, who's been one of the best relievers in baseball this year.
I was waiting for you to bring that up. But I mean, did you see Judge's face? Did you see Judge's face and Soto? Well, and like as he's rounding the bases and he sees Jazz doing his shit and the fucking Euro step at home, and like you could just see this smile, and you could see Soto.
We're back.
Almost looking at Judge like, okay, maybe now we can go. Because remember, it was Soto who was like, yo, we can't do this all ourselves. We can't do this all on our own. We need some help. And so when you see a guy like Jazz show up who comes with the flair that he comes with the passion that he comes with, and also is coming with productivity.
Imagine being the Yankees and thinking that all that is a bad thing. Being like, I don't know. He just seems a little too happy. He's just got like too much character for us. I don't know. Like we kind of like our players to be fucking boring.
Here's my question.
Domestic abuse, that's okay. But like, you know, if they're happy and they're having a good time, that's kind of where we draw the line. Facial hair,
Does Jazz Chisholm turn all of that on its head? Is Jazz Chisholm?
He doesn't seem to care. Look at perfect example.
Listen, the belt,
look at Alex Verdugo. Look at Alex Verdugo. He completely changed. Like the dude that he was in Boston and LA, he is not that guy with the Yankees. Mm-mm. He's a shell of himself. Jazz is like, I am who I am. I'm gonna be who I am. That's who you chose to put me on your team. So I'm gonna just like, this is what you signed up for. This is what you're gonna get.
So I gravitated towards just the physicality, the look of Jazz Chisholm on the New York Yankees, because there's one dude, and correct me if I'm wrong. I could very well be wrong. I believe there's one guy on the New York Yankees that in their accessories, elbow pad, batting gloves, shin guard, shit like that, there's one dude who has non-team color accessories. That would be Aaron Judge. And again, if there's other guys in the lineup, then please let me know that. And what I'm saying right now doesn't carry as much validity. But Jazz Chisholm was wearing purple batting gloves, right? With like a green belt or whatever. I don't know. Not team issued, if you will. And so is that okay with the Yankees? That it's Jazz Chisholm that's doing that and it's not Aaron Judge? Are other players on the Yankees who may have secretly wanted to wear their green highlighter elbow pad but have kept it in the closet because they're not Aaron Judge and this is the Yankees? Will they feel compelled to do so? Will they walk into Aaron Boone's office and go, hey, I like to wear purple shit too. And if you let me wear purple shit, who knows? I might actually be good at second base. I might actually be willing to move over here if I could do what I want to do. I don't know. But is the arrival of Jazz Chisholm, along with the productivity, something that could seriously start to shift the culture in New York?
It already has. It already has. If you're watching the games, it already has. Like they're smiling again. Like when's the last time you saw Judge smile?
But I'm talking Jazz Chisholm says, you know what? We want to grow fucking playoff beards.
Nah. He ain't that guy.
Well, I'm not telling you that he is, but I'm asking, is his presence now something that starts to spur the conversation? And now the 24th guy on the roster is feeling a little more confident in wearing his accessories out there and seeing what happens. Do I get called into George Steinbrenner's office? Is it because I'm 0 for 12 and Jazz Chisholm doesn't because he's hitting homers? How does this go? I'm just asking questions about what the future looks like for the Yankees when a guy like Jazz shows up, who there was some apprehension about bringing into the room and has just done what he's done. Like, you get the fucking sign off from the captain. Derek Sanderson Jeter told you, go get this dude. He's going to help us. And that's all he's done up until this point.
Like, I feel like Jeter was trying to sabotage the Yankees. He fucking hates them. He does.
Well, I mean, you heard Jazz talk about the mentorship and how, you know, when Kobe passed, he called Jeter and was like, yo, you're the captain now. You're my captain, bud. What are you going to do?
I thought that was weird, by the way. I feel like you can have an idol that's dead.
Yeah, but I mean, it probably makes probably makes tapping that resource a little more difficult.
Sure. A mentor and an idol, I think, are different.
Very much so.
Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, Strom got taken to the moon. That was tough. And I like Strom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's a good pitcher.
I don't believe that for a minute.
What do you mean? He's a good pitcher.
Is there another way to say that? You might respect what he does on the mound.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a big leaguer, Jared. He's good.
Yeah, every big leaguer is good. It's impossible to suck if you play Major League Baseball.
Fact.
My words.
Yep. Your words.
If you want to go to a Phillies game and see Matt Strom give up another bomb, you got to go to the Game Time app. Get tickets in Philly. What? Is that not what happened?
Oh no, it happened.
Okay.
It happened.
Just making sure. I didn't want to spread misinformation there.
No, I just don't know how many Philly fans want to see that.
Nah, I don't want to see it.
No. No.
I don't want against the Yankees? Come on. You're smarter than that. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer that it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. How are those ticket prices for that last home game at the Coliseum, Dallas? Are they coming down or no?
They are not coming down.
Going up?
I do not think they're coming down. Yep. Kind of
Going
like
up.
the tarps on the top. I don't think they're coming down.
Well, head on over to the Game Time app. If you want seats to that, you don't want to miss the last game at the Coliseum. Save up to 60% off by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Save even more when you choose a section. You let Game Time choose the seats for you. All-in pricing, toggle this feature, and it'll show you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry today. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code BID for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the promo code BID for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Jay, hey, what trade do you want to yap about? I feel like you're itching to yap about one of these deals.
Oh, I mean, I got so many I want to yap on. Which one? Oh, let's see. Which one do I want to pick? I would pick. Let's do the Orioles stuff. I think the most significant, or at least the most interesting, of their acquisitions was Trevor Rogers. You know, we all had them operating or trying to operate at the top of the market. Skubal, Crochet, Flaherty, whoever. We already talked about the Eflin deal, which I think you and I at least are both fans of. The Rogers thing, when I saw it, and especially given that we all, I think most of us, recognize the names that were sent back in the Trevor Rogers deal, not their elite guys, but prospects or people in Stowers cases that we had heard of. That caught my eye because Trevor Rogers hasn't been very good for several years now. He has a 4.92 ERA over 48 starts since the start of the 2022 season. His strikeout rate's currently at its lowest mark that in any single season that he's had. But then you kind of like look at the box scores or the game logs a little bit, and you notice that he's got a 3.17 ERA over his last 9 starts. And you kind of wonder, and this was kind of a theme that I saw throughout a lot of these trades. I think I used the term eye of the beholder on the last podcast. To me, a lot of these were almost like, we want your guy because we think we can fix them or tweak them or make, some sort of adjustment to them that will help us. Because like Rogers to me doesn't just, it's not explainable in only we want him to soak up innings sort of way, like the Frankie Montas deal with the Brewers is, which we probably won't talk about. That's
projection
an inning
here.
Yeah, that's an inning soaking move in Montas. This to me suggests something
Hints
more. And I'm very interested once the Orioles get their hands on Trevor Rogers, whether like any semblance of his 2021 breakout all-star campaign can be realized. So that part was interesting to me. And then, like, I know Eloy's a name, but I think his name value largely significantly outstrips like what he's going to be expected to do here. Like, this to me is just kind of like backfill from having traded Austin Hayes and some other outfield depth, which is not what you would think when you hear the name Eloy Jimenez. But I don't know. I just thought the Orioles' overall approach, like, I know there was a level of disappointment about the lack of star power that was moved to some of these contenders, but I thought, between Rodgers and Soto, I'm at least intrigued by what they have going on.
Well, and the fact that the Orioles, I mean, they parted ways with a couple of guys in that trade that, I mean, they liked, right? With Norby and Stowers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't some low A, kind of, slapdick prospect, to use the terminology of the day, but, guys we had heard of. And like Trevor Rogers, to your point, like, hasn't been good. And like Yusei Kikuchi hasn't been good, but got a significant return, asset wise. So, but the Orioles have been in our crosshairs for the whole time. So I just thought that was an interesting series of transactions.
And I think to your point, Jay, this is why I have the stance that I have when it comes to expanding the 40-man roster, because it leads a little further down the line to your ability to identify players that you and yourself, your group, you feel like you can help, right? You've seen some things that you've identified where you're saying, oh, well, it's this adjustment. We had player X before that was in a similar boat, and we made these adjustments, and we watched the payoff occur in this fashion. And so having individuals that you can entrust with analyzing them, whether it's a biomechanist combined with, somebody who just understands the art of pitching and what it takes to get an individual to a certain point in their craft and their stuff, making those adjustments. I believe that is as important and as valuable as it has ever been in our game for these reasons, because there might, I always think about the Astros and the Garrett Cole conversation, right? When he came out of the room and told everybody that would listen, what I just heard in there about myself is shit that I have never even thought about myself. And then we know what kind of animal he turned into immediately after the fact. So you have to give some credence to that approach and it being viable, but that's also where I think, that there could be that makeup. But for Tanner Scott, Trevor Rogers, like, what he's done over his last month or so, the last, 9-10 starts, has been a lot better than what you've gotten collectively from him. 3.17 in his last 9 starts. It's not to say that some of the other numbers surrounding his arsenal don't raise eyebrows, but it is what it is for the Orioles. They need help in the rotation.
They do. Swerving Cole Irvin, Dallas.
DFA'd, I know.
Yep. Hang with them. There's some inconsequential deals that went down. I know, Dallas, you threw a tweet out there about Paulie punched myself to the Mets. Josh Bell to the D-backs. I don't know what that really does for them at this point.
I mean, I think both of those can be coupled together, as you just did, in a way, because they're both kind of addressing recent injuries, right? Like Josh Bell's papering over the Christian Walker injury, and punch myself is Senga. So, it's going to be great. Everybody in Queens, all, final 2 months, they're going to, every start,
Jay,
the whole crowd's going to be punching.
It just made me feel so good that somebody asked, what the fuck? Paulie punch out? Who the fuck's this guy punching out? He's got an ERA of 5. He's blah, blah. And I was like, look, in the year that the nickname evolved, he went from punching out 7 per 9 to 9 per 9, which is what garnered the nickname. And you're absolutely right, Jay. It is purely about Paul Blackburn being a guy who can pitch, in my opinion, and I think in the Mets' opinion, what are going to be valuable innings. That's it. Yeah. Valuable innings.
Just stop the comment after I believe he's a guy who can pitch.
Valuable innings, because they have to be accounted for.
He is a guy who can pitch for sure.
And he'll pitch valuable innings.
You know what's funny, though? I put no credence in this because his career doesn't have this split. But 1.38 ERA at home this season and a 7.56 ERA on the road. So
small ballparks, just small ballparks this year that he was in. That's it.
Yeah. No, that's
22 and a third scoreless inning streak to start the season. The guy's got goose eggs in him, Mets fans. The guy has got goose eggs.
No, he's great. Really good pickup. Jared, can we shout out the guards?
Yeah, the guards went out there and added Alex Cobb and Lane Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know the prospect evaluation of the Lane Thomas trade was that the Guardians gave up, not an insane amount for Lane Thomas, but probably 20% more or 25% more than you would want to give up for him. I'm super pleased that they made specifically the Thomas trade, but also the tandem of deals. Again, another guy who hasn't pitched or hasn't played like Tommy Edman. Alex Cobb, like a 3.79 ERA over 74 starts from 21 to 23. And I know that everybody has this image in their head of what a good Guardians team looks like, and it's fueled by great starting pitching. That really just hasn't been the case this season. In a lot of different ways, the Guardians rotation has been super ineffective. And really desperately needs people to soak up innings. And so the hope is that Alex Cobb can be that guy, even if he's maybe not doing a lot of high leverage work for you, if and when the Guardians make the postseason. But Lane Thomas to me is I think he qualifies as exciting by the standards of this trade deadline. 922 OPS against lefties this season, 888 OPS against lefties in his career, and tied for third in Major League Baseball in stolen bases. That is a combination of skills that the Guardians needed and gives Stephen Vogt, I think, a really interesting weapon, whether it's as, a platoon outfielder, an everyday outfielder. I think he could do either one for the Guardians. So I just, big picture, I was really glad they did stuff and not just something kind of just a bone to throw to the fans. Lane Thomas is a real pickup. And I think this team and this moment in time for the Guardians, with the way that the league is shaking out right now, they deserve to push forward, and I'm glad that they did.
Well, it's something that the Guardians have been missing, which is pop at times, right? You need pop. You got to hit the homer.
Braves got some pop. Braves got some pop. Yep. Jorge Soler back to the Braves. I mean, I feel like this was a match made in heaven, especially if they're kind of in that underdog. Like Joe has been talking about this. 2021, Acuna goes down. They bring in Soler. They bring in Peterson. Obviously, that's not happening, but Rosario, who's still there or is there again. Yep. They're getting the band back together. They're like, this is the formula. This is the way. When Ronnie goes down, this is what we do.
Well, that's it. Well, now it's Albies too, right? That's what you got to do now is bring them both back. That's why you had to bring Rosario back as well. Can't just bring one back. We got to bring them both back. We've lost two stars. We got to supplement them with two old faces.
I know Soler hasn't been great this year, but he has been really good by the standards of what the Braves outfield has delivered, and that's, as we all know, with Marcell Ozuna firmly occupying the DH spot, Jorge Soler is going to take his skill set to the outfield, which is its own challenge. But from an offensive standpoint, the Braves outfield has ranked 28th in WOBA and 26th in wins above replacement this season. So, I kind of admired, I think one of the kind of underrated details here is that the Braves are taking on $28 million in this deal to absorb basically the entirety of Jorge Soler's contract. I think they deserve credit for doing that because he's a flawed player, but he makes them better. And obviously they have a familiarity, as you guys outlined, but Braves outfield has been, devastatingly bad with the Acuna injury. And also Michael Harris, who was a key part of the team last year and who has been a combination of really bad before he was injured and now injured for an extended period of time. So nice pickup.
Has Jorge Soler made his donation to the Braves fund?
I think that the second that you put on the Braves uniform and it gets deducted from your bank account. Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your service. That's pretty much all the big deals that happened yesterday. We covered the rest on the previous episode.
Well, the reason I just want to touch on the Cardinals and Tommy Pham and Fetty, is the Cardinals were very left-handed. They were very left-handed off the bench, and with Dylan Carlson there, a guy who was struggling, highly rated prospect, highly touted prospect, but things just not panning out. They got to make moves, right? On the bench, you've got Matt Carpenter, you've got Brandon Crawford, you had Dylan Carlson. That's 3 out of your lefties on the bench, or is 3 out of the 4 bench players at any given time maybe being left-handed, and not a ton of overwhelming power there. And then when you go and get Fetty, what you're plugging in is a guy who, as they said, after the season he had in Korea, you can essentially take whatever you got maybe in the past and just disregard that, and let's move forward. And what you've gotten from Fetty, who the dude is 7-4 from a team that not good. Not he's good at all.
He's between Fried and Logan Gilbert in ERA in the league. Like, he's really good. The Cardinals, the Cardinals added probably the best starting pitcher, whose name is not Jack Flaherty. They deserve a lot of credit for that. And you talked about why he's different now. Like, as you know, he added a sweeper, and batters are hitting 100. They're hitting a $167 against the pitch, and he's throwing it 20% of the time. So, like, this is in terms of throwing out the previous stuff. Like, this is a case where I think you can throw that stuff in the garbage, because this is a fundamentally different pitcher.
Yeah, and the pitch that was getting him in trouble is a pitch that he's no longer throwing. So you replace a pitch that was getting your ass kicked with a pitch that is allowing you to now kick said ass.
Depressing update on Mike Trout, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, they just shut him down. We talked about it. I think we were all on the same page that it wouldn't be totally shocking if he didn't play again this season, and or does it really matter if he plays again this season? I don't know. There's something to the idea that he's been shut down again that did matter to me, I think, a little bit. And I don't know. It was just the Griffey comparisons are now completely unavoidable in terms of what the second decade of this player's career looks like. And I was old enough to experience the Reds Griffey, but not have it be my life's work. So it was like kind of a passive experience. And to see this kind of in a granular day-to-day level, not quite like an Angels fan does, but it's super frustrating. And that's, that's all there is to it, I guess.
Take it from a guy who, oh God,
poor guy.
I didn't give him a heads up, so.
Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Baseball is dead. Rest, dude.
Yeah, we were just talking about baseball.
Were you? I thought it was wait, are we on Nested right now?
Yeah, we're on Nesson. You're on Unobstructed Views.
What's going on? I love Red Sox.
Yeah, so we finally had Bob Nightengale on today. So you're actually guest number 2 on the show. And
what a tough follow.
Great follow. And we got to the part of the show where we had to discuss Mike Trout shut down again. Don't know if he's going to play again this year. Anthony Rendon back on the injured list. It just felt like the time was now to call Max.
Yeah, no, hey, love to be back. Glad times are good, like always. You had a little interesting caveat there. You said he might not play again ever.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that he'll play again this year, Max. How do you feel?
This year, this decade. It might be it. That might be wraps.
Is that the sentiment amongst Angel fans? Is like that's the glory days are over?
It'll. I don't think it'll ever be. They never want to say that, but I'm kind of just everything I see, like my mood. I've been doing color wheels lately. Like, what's your mood today?
Mm-hmm.
It's just been black. Like, it's just pitch black. And I go back to your tweet. The sun's going to explode one day.
Yeah, it is.
I could totally see that as a reasonable explanation. I don't want to say he's never going to play again. Like, but it's like, do we want Hey, I could predict next season. Let me guess. I don't know, 50 games, and then shut it down. Like, how much longer? And I don't blame. Before, like a couple years ago, I'd blame you guys and be like, "Oh, you guys suck. You're talking bullshit. Stop talking about Trout." And like now, it's like I can't even say anything. It's how he tore his meniscus out, and then he got surgery, did one at bat, and then, as a former knee surgery recipient myself, I understand the struggle of rehab and trying to get back. But to me, I just don't know. Like, it's hard for me to relate to these athletes.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
It's kind of crazy, man. I just want.
How are you guys doing?
We are. We're doing good. We just feel bad for you, honestly. Like, I feel like this is something where we just want to check in. I know that after losing Shohei, that was very difficult for you, number one. And now losing Mike Trout. I mean, like, and now losing Anthony Rendon. What do you really, are you watching every game or no?
Bro, I'm watching calls, the A's. I went to a game where he was at. He sent me a text. I sent him a text mid-game. He texted back after. I was so drunk I couldn't even comprehend what, because he had wrote it in like Dallas lingo. I couldn't understand what he wrote.
Dallas texted you and you didn't respond?
I hearted it, but because I was so drunk, I didn't know what he said. He's like, "Are you sitting in section 108 or are you taking the Rook train home?" And I was like, "All right, I'm like too drunk for this. I'm gonna go home." But yeah, no, I'm watching every game. No chance. I'm watching one a week, maybe.
You sent me time out. You sent me a picture from I don't know where the fuck you're sitting at, and I asked you. You take that from outside the stadium, section 108 in the Impact Building, and if you look about a mile outside of left field, there's a huge Impact Building. And you told me, "Oh yeah, I'm in section 108." And I said, "Section 108 in the Impact Building? Was section 108 where?" And you responded with, "I'm crying." So there's no Rooker lingo. You're getting social media and text message communications mixed up and blurred. Have another, you inconsolable fuck.
Wow.
All right, yeah. I thought you mixed in a Shea Langoliers like this or something. Like, I don't know.
No, that's just what was happening in the game. That's just what was happening in the game. Rooker was hitting home runs.
Can you blame me? Every time I turned around, the A's are hitting a home run left and right. It's like, I can't. I got to the stadium. I sat in my seat. 2-run home run. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to leave.
That was Rooker.
And,
that's what I mean. 2-0 real early.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So, yeah, I was hoping to come on here and talk positive Angels, but
we're not. We are way too deep into the podcast to spend time doing that. That's not going. That's not going to happen.
Hey, don't get me wrong. If it was up to me, I was like, hey, you know what? These guys, I know they love me. I know they'll call me when something looks bright. And I was sitting by the phone, and trust me, I was waiting. I was waiting for something.
That's cool, man.
But
we'll get the contact info for the old folks home that you retire to, and we'll contact you when things look good for the Angels.
Yeah, it's just hard. I would take advice. I don't know if any of your guys' teams have ever been that. I'll be honest. Dumb sport.
Done with the sport.
The management, the control, the players are weird. Like the
players are weird.
Nobody knows what to do with the trade deadline. The value this, value that. Like, bro, we had guys with expiring contracts didn't get traded. Why? Like, all right, isn't that? So what are we doing?
I'm sorry.
You can't convince me. Let's put Jay Hay, Dallas, Jared in the Angels front office. You can't do worse than what has been done. And that's not a shot at you guys. I'm just saying, if I could pay to see that, I would pay to see that.
I'm ready for my
nice
shot.
Little
so
haul for Luis Garcia yesterday. No,
bro, 4 guys that I don't even think like I've ever heard of in my life ever.
I mean,
I don't even think you would hang out with them.
That's how
I have Nico Cavadis' number. We've texted before. He played for Notre Dame, hit some bombs there. He's got a lot of pop. Matthew Lugo, he was another one that was kind of tearing up Double-A. I don't know about the other two guys.
That's
but
Seth,
Lugo
that's
and
Seth's
Cavadas.
son, right?
Yes.
It's son.
Loogie?
Yeah.
All right, that's what we're doing.
That's what we're
No.
doing.
Hey, I've been, you know what? I've been hoping for good news, and I've been, I don't really know what else you could do. But how are you going to convince any? If you have season tickets this year, I don't know what the hell, like what you're thinking. But next year, I can tell you how it's going to go. They're going to suck. Trade deadline's going to come. They're going to trade one guy, and then they're going to draft a hitter from fucking Vanderbilt or wherever, and then they'll be 20 games out, but in the AL West is so bad they're only 8 games out, so it's like that. Hope, but then you don't have hope, but then you do have hope. And then one day, the owner is going to say, you know what, I'm bored, and then sell the team to hopefully a billionaire, and then we're kind of back.
If he doesn't sell to a billionaire, you're in huge trouble.
Well, you never know. It could be a group of millionaires.
Pat Light wants to buy the Angels, he said.
I honestly don't like it. He's just trolling at this point, and I think he's trolling.
Yeah, Pat Light's
went to the
definitely not
stadium,
really
I mean-
going to buy the Angels. That's for
No,
sure.
he might.
I think you've accurately
I went to-
assessed his interest level. Yeah.
Fucking spot on, Max.
I mean, I went to the stadium; it was 80% full, and that was just a rough estimate.
And the fans love it. Fans love Angel baseball.
a
There's
good
no
product.
denying, Max.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little disappointed to hear you're only watching one game a week. I thought you were a real one.
Like, why would you subject me to that type of pain?
I mean, up until today or yesterday, Rendon was still playing. Don't you want to watch Rendon?
I can't even carry that bit on anymore. I'll be honest. My back is, brother. My back is killing me right now carrying that bit. Hey, look, I was thinking last night. I was trying to fire off a tweet, but I don't like putting out stuff that's permanent. But like, I could have just been born in a whole other state. I could have been born in Miami.
Yeah, you could have been.
That wouldn't have been.
You have a way better
Like,
situation.
Yeah, I don't know. I could have been an East Coast guy like you guys. Fucking, what were you saying? Fuck 3 p.m. Pacific earlier, or like you were shitting on Pacific time or something. So
Yeah,
like,
Pacific
It's just
I
because
could've
they're
been
ignorant.
yeah, I could have been shoveling snow too, buddy. I could have been on the fucking Karen Reed trial. I could have done all that.
Karen Reed.
We have way
kinda
more
where I'm at.
hours.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm watching murder mystery docs to fill in my Angels void of a decade of my life. Just, when Trout's done, like I think I might hang him up.
You're just not doing baseball no more?
As an athlete, like if he's done,
Why don't you
And
just
you know
get a
the
jump
one
start
thing-
on it? He's missing another season, and why don't you just hang him up?
Yeah.
Why don't you
Well,
just preemptively?
we're-
So, Max, this is
We're
our
gonna-
farewell episode to
Wow.
you, Max. What do you have to say to the people?
Hanging up his Spurs.
Wow.
What a run.
The
Yeah.
Angels have
No.
broken Max.
How could they have no bullshit if, I get this all the time. It sickens me to say, but people that follow from a distance that are somehow fans of what I do, trust me, I don't know either. But they're like, what if you grew up rooting for this team, possibly a drives away from the Angels, and do you think, how much success do you think that would have? And like, I don't know, some people might speculate my career might be doing a little better, but I think the Angels have legit, don't get me wrong, I also suck, but the Angels have helped.
Don't get
Very-
me wrong.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not fucking, what was the beef fuzzy Zach? I'm not one of those guys,
Yeah.
but I definitely, the Angels have definitely helped put dirt on my grave for sure, just by being, and it's like teams being bad is like almost good because it's more content, but it's like they're so bad, it's just like, who am I kidding here?
They're so bad that like people aren't even interested in content surrounding that specific team.
They legit do not care. They gave out a rally monkey puppet the other day, like it still would care.
Yeah. That's tough. I'm sad to hear that, Max.
No, you guys.
I am.
Hey, there,
you
were
know what? Hey,
there were 40,000 people for the Trout bobblehead, bro.
That's what I said. I'm the one that pitched that. I said, hey, we should have a Trout bobblehead.
yeah,
People in the stadium.
like that's a great idea. People like this guy.
I also think giveaway. Hey, you know what? If I can't fix the Angels, I'll try to help fix baseball. Why don't they just do giveaways at the end of the game? Just keep people in the stadium. buy more concessions, buy more drinks, like, and then you get it on the way out instead of the 2 guys that get 50 bobbleheads and leave right away.
That's a good point. Well, because then the giveaways are mostly for the kids, and it's like, well, the kids, they got to leave in the 6th inning because they're kids. They got to go to bed.
Buddy, how bad do you want this replica jersey?
That's true. I'm with you.
Young Jared would have stayed.
Oh, he never left.
That's what I'm saying. You get on the way out.
That's
And
fact.
people were nice and orderly, and you leave and you get your item, and if you're drunk, you don't get anything. You go home alone, empty-handed.
Max, you're welcome anytime on the Red Sox bandwagon. If you want to jump ship, you're welcome here. But once you come over, you can't leave though.
I think my personality is just going to shift to Jose and Glazer.
I
My
can see
life
that.
hasn't been the same since my life hasn't been the same since he left. I might just do impersonator. You need me at a party?
Yeah, it's like we can't get the real Jose Iglesias to perform "Oh My God" at my son's 6-year-old birthday party, but we can get Max to look like Jose Iglesias and perform the song.
I think I found my new career path
Okay.
in this goal. I just want to shout out one player that doesn't get any love
Okay.
in any baseball. I mean, maybe like Locked On Red. Stuart Fairchild, shout out him.
All right. Shout out to Stuart Fairchild. Thank you.
His chick is so hot on TikTok. That's why.
Thank you, Max. Hey, I hope you're doing well. And go Halos.
Hey,
Doesn't sound
Tempe
like he is.
2025.
Yep. Go. Yeah.
See you guys in Tempe, right?
All right. Can't wait.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Thank you, Max.
All right, see ya.
Poor bastard.
Yeah, really meaningful to say I hope a guy's doing well after we just spent 20 minutes hearing about how much his life sucks.
Yeah. Well,
I think we can definitively say he's not doing well.
Yeah, he's not, but like that doesn't mean I can't hope that he is.
Well, yeah, I hope that it gets better, maybe.
Yeah, I hope it gets better for Max.
Yeah, it won't.
It won't. No.
Not anytime soon.
No, for sure.
No, not in this lifetime.
No. Last thing for me, Jackson Holiday's getting recalled.
He's in the game. He's playing right now.
He's playing right now.
Yep.
I hope he does well too. I hope he does better than Max.
Yeah. Taj Bradley's getting touched around for the first time in quite a long time by those Marlins. Can't ever hold him down.
Yep. Can't underestimate him.
My
Dallas,
final thought.
Yep.
The Buccos added some pop. And Jay Hay, they added a super utility man. And
Yeah,
I
they
think
sure
it's
did.
It's America's super utility man. IKF.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Kiner-Falefa also headed to the pirate ship. De La Cruz and his 18 bombs. And you're going to sign up Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who is, I think at times, or has been at times, and maybe is, the best defensive super utility man out there. Highly regarded defensive super utility man amidst the best offensive season he's had in his career. So will we take that? Does that raise it? Yeah, it raises it a little. Sure. Plugging in some pop. Just a little bit. Not telling you, no, there's
A little
No.
halfy. Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Jay, final thoughts?
Jokes aside, the De La Cruz pickup is decent. It's like a lot of these other things where, what was being replaced was so bad that going out and getting like, a league average or maybe even slightly below bat actually does improve your situation. I just have some rapid fire nugs here. Last night, Patrick Corbin became the 5th pitcher in the last 80 years to allow 11 or more runs while not issuing a single walk. So congratulations to him for keeping the ball in the zone.
It's a lot of barrels.
A lot of barrels. Joining Pat Henkin in 97, Mark Burley in 06, Colby Lewis in 2014, and Herman Marquez in 2019. Sean Manaea, 5th Mets left-hander to have a start with 11 or more strikeouts and 0 runs allowed in the wild card era, joining Al Leiter in 2000, Sean Estes in 2002, Tom Glavine in 05, and Chris Capuano in 2011. Not a name I've thought about recently. Eugenio Suarez as part of that 17-0 drubbing for the D-backs against the Nationals yesterday. Had a 3-homer game. He's the oldest D-backs player with a 3-homer game since Damian Easley on June 3rd, 2006. I tweeted this, but I just love this stat. Bobby Witt Jr. is about to be the 5th player in MLB history and the first since George Brett in 1980 to have a .480 batting average and 16 or more stolen bases in a single July. The only other players to do so, in addition to Bobby Witt and George Brett, are Rogers Hornsby, Tris Speaker, and Ty Cobb. So everybody who has previously done it is a inner circle Hall of Fame type of person. And then Dylan Cease pitches today. He has, over his last 3 starts, 22 innings pitched, 2 hits, 0 runs, and 30 strikeouts. He is the only pitcher in Major League Baseball history to ever have a 3-start stretch where he has 30 or more strikeouts and 2 or fewer hits allowed. So we'll see what he does in his 4th start. But those are my nugs. And if you want to get my takes on any of the trades we didn't talk about, be sure to tune in to Jay Hay After Dark, which is my podcast that doesn't get recorded.
Oh, you could do that. You could do a Twitter Spaces. You could do a YouTube Live. You could do a YouTube Live.
I could.
You could do
I don't know if the
Q&A with Jay Hay.
I don't know if the Mark Canha trade justifies, firing up a whole new content form, but I'll keep it in mind for future stuff. Also, my real final thought, in addition to the nugs, is I'm first and foremost modest. So I just want to shout out my own work. Check out the newest YouTube video that me and the team put out on Andrew Benintendi and the White Sox and why that combination is experiencing the worst season of all time.
16 straight, baby. Going for 17 today.
Yeah. When you're the worst player on maybe the worst team in baseball history, that's the worst season ever.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And it's only going to get worse.
Fine person. Nothing in the video about him being a bad person. Just, bad season on a bad team.
Yeah. It's going to happen. Jake's takes?
I just want to be the last guy in the bar with Bob Nightengale so badly. I think we got to make that happen sometime soon.
I think we can definitely make that happen.
Yeah.
Fuck yes.
We can definitely make that happen. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Family Feud Thursday. Now that the trade deadline is behind us, we are on to the dog days of summer, the stretch run for October, and it kicks off tomorrow with Family Feud. The Baseball is Dead Family Feud. We will see you then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Wow.